Hello, everyone. My name is Rabbi Barry Cohen, and I'm the Jewish Community Chaplain of the Greater Portland area. And I want to wish all of you Happy Hanukkah. We are about to light the candles, celebrating the sixth night of the Festival of Lights for our people. And I'm going to follow up the lighting of the Chanukah, the Hanukkah menorah, with the telling of a special Hanukkah story. All right? So let's just dive right in and offer the blessings for the lighting of the Chanukah, the Hanukkah menorah. Got the shamash, the helper candle, got to make sure it's lighting properly. It's a little stubborn. Oh, it's getting there. There we are. Whew. Didn't want that candle to burn out. That would have been a bad omen. All right. So we'll recite the first two blessings and then light the Chanukah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lihadlik ner shel Chanukah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa nisim la'otenu bayamim ha'hem ba'zman hazeh. Wonderful. All right. Happy Hanukkah, sixth night. What I'd like to do now is I'd like to share a story because we just offered the blessing for the lighting of the Chanukah, and then we offered the blessing which talked about the miracle, the miracle of our victory over the opposition that wanted to take away our Jewish identity. So this is a story very appropriate for that spirit because it captures the importance of having pride in who we are, in celebrating, in effect, who we are, and of feeling a sense of gratefulness, a sense of thanksgiving for all of those who came before to ensure that we will be able to embrace our Jewish identity today. This is a story called The Gift of Light. The Gift of Light. And it's by Devorah Zipkin. This story begins with a young girl named Miriam. Now, Miriam, she, let's just say, she really wasn't all that happy with who she was, and that was a shame. She didn't like her hair, for example. It was frizzy and dark and curly. She didn't like her name, Miriam. Didn't like the way it sounded, and she didn't like how every single year those two holidays kept rolling around the corner. And it happened during wintertime when the nights were getting longer and the days were getting shorter. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know, I'm talking about Christmas and Hanukkah. Now, this made Miriam really angry. And she was angry for a number of different reasons. Number one, she was angry because she was the only kid in her class that didn't celebrate Christmas. And she was angry because she knew the truth about Hanukkah, that it is really just a minor holiday. It really is not that important for the Jewish calendar. But what made her angry was that the people assumed not only that everyone celebrated Christmas, but for the Jewish people, she assumed that the Jewish people thought that Hanukkah was just as important as Christmas. Miriam knew the truth. She knew that the only reason people even knew about Hanukkah was because it occurs at about the same time as Christmas. And Miriam would use her frustrations about Hanukkah to complain about Judaism in general. She would complain about all of the holidays, the traditions, the rituals, the food. She would complain how she didn't like any of it. She also complained about her name. She didn't like the way Miriam sounded. She would complain, Miriam just falls like a plop. It's heavy, flat, dull. It's not airy or light like Melissa, Ellie. Miriam also didn't like her hair. She'd look in the mirror and only see a lumpy mess, frizzy. She would say, "It looks like I stuck my finger into an electrical socket." Her parents tried to encourage her. They would try to share how wonderful Judaism is and all the amazing qualities of Judaism. But it really didn't help. For Miriam, Hanukkah and all the Jewish holidays and rituals and traditions and food, all of it, it all kept coming up short. Night after night throughout Hanukkah, Miriam did nothing but complain. "This is boring. I hate it. Why can't we have a tree? Why do I even have to be Jewish?" Miriam even began to boycott the family lighting of the Chanukah. And one night, she even went over to a friend's house to help her family decorate the Christmas tree. Finally, she announced, "I'm not going to school for the rest of the week." "What about the holiday party?" her dad asked. "Don't you want to go to that?" "It's not a holiday party," Miriam said. "Hanukkah would have been over before the party even begins. It's really just a Christmas party, but they only call it a Hanukkah party." Her mom chimed in, "Well, dear, why don't you go ahead and skip the rest of the week? In fact, how about if I stay home tomorrow and we can spend it together?" This really wasn't exactly the response Miriam was looking for. The next day, her mom decided to call her over and call her over to sit together on Miriam's bed. Miriam's mom began to explain that they had an awful lot in common. She explained that when she was a little girl, she didn't like Hanukkah either. She didn't like it because it made her feel different. It made her feel like she stood out, like she wasn't like all the other students. Then her mom walked away and went into her bedroom and came back with an old photo album. And she began flipping through the pages. She stopped at an image of a woman with frizzy dark hair, just like Miriam's. Miriam asked, "Well, who's that?" "That is Sadie, your great grandmother. Tragically, she died in the Holocaust." At that point, Miriam's mom left her alone in her bedroom with the photo album. So she picked it up and began kind of leafing through the pages. And she saw all the images of her family that was long gone. And she knew that many of them died during the Holocaust. Thank goodness her grandmother, her mom's mom, was smuggled out. She looked again at the photo of the woman that her mom showed her, and she remembered that her mom said that was Sadie, her grandmother. Miriam looked exactly like her. She kind of stared at the photo once again, and then she whispered, "I wish I could have known you." Then she heard a response, "I wish I could have known you too." Let's say this startled Miriam. She then heard a voice say, "Let's get to know each other." Miriam turned around and she saw a shape back in the corner. And she saw that the shape, it started to move from the shadows. When it reached the light, there, right in front of her, it looked like her great-grandmother, Sadie. Sadie said, "I've always been here. You saw me because you wanted to see me, and you called out my name." Miriam double-checked. She looked at the woman now sitting on her bed, and she looked at the photo in the photo album. They were one and the same. Sadie began to talk to Miriam about Hanukkah and about Christmas. And the more Sadie talked, the more Miriam noticed Sadie's frizzy dark hair, and she began to think, hey, that hair's beautiful. Sadie shared her memories of Hanukkah, the lighting of the Chanukah, how the family would sing songs together and spin the dreidel. They would eat the chocolate gelt and latkes. Sadie said that Hanukkah was not boring at all. And every year she waited and looked forward to celebrating it with her family. Miriam began to agree a little bit that maybe Hanukkah wasn't that bad after all. Then Sadie started talking about Passover. And she reminded Miriam about another Miriam who saved her brother Moses and all of the Jewish people. Then Miriam talked about Rosh Hashanah, about the apples and honey, the sweet round challah, and of course, the sound of the shofar. Sadie also talked about Sukkot, how they would eat meals in the sukkah, and how she would even sleep when it wasn't raining. She would sleep in the sukkah. And before she fell asleep, she would lie on her back and gaze up at the nighttime sky and just be amazed at the beauty and the awesomeness of the stars that filled the sky. Sadie talked about how special each and every Jewish holiday can be. But Sadie's greatest gift? Suddenly, Miriam saw a long line of women starting in her bedroom. The women looked like her and Sadie, and their arms were like they were interlocked, and they formed a long chain. The chain spread out outside the bedroom, down the hall, down the stairs, and then all the way down the street. Sadie pointed out all of Miriam's grandmothers that came before. She noted how each and every one of them held a Chanukah, and how each and every one at that time, they were singing Hanukkah songs. The chain of these grandmothers could not be broken. Even though many people had tried to break them apart, it never happened. It may have bent. They may have bent, but they never broke. Miriam realized that if that chain had ever broken, she would not be here today. And she understood that Sadie and all of her grandmothers gave Miriam the gift of life. Then, in an instant, the chain of women disappeared. Then Sadie nodded at Miriam, and she disappeared. At that point, Miriam's dad walked into the room. Time for bed, kiddo. What about lighting up the Chanukah? Oh my goodness, her dad said. How could we have forgotten? As a family, they went downstairs and they gathered around the dining room table and lit the Chanukah. Someday, Miriam would tell her parents about her visit with Sadie, about their amazing conversation, and about the long chain of women. But for now, Miriam decided to keep it a secret. As they lit the candles, Miriam felt Sadie standing by her side, holding her hand. And she felt very thankful for her gift of light, her gift of love, her gift of life. I want to wish each and every one of you Chag Sameach Chanukah, a happy Hanukkah holiday. May we enjoy the beautiful light of the Chanukah. May we even get a little bit of gelt, enjoy some chocolate gelt. And if we're into it, maybe we can even play a little bit of dreidel. The nights are getting longer, the days are getting shorter, but together we can look back on all of those who came before us, and we can realize that they have given us one of the greatest gifts of all. They gave us the gift of hope and optimism. They gave us the gift of life, and they gave us the amazing gift of light. May we continue to enjoy it, feel its warmth, but may we also feel the warmth of very, very fond memories of how we once celebrated Hanukkah when we were younger, and can we look with hope and confidence to future years when we will continue to celebrate Hanukkah together. Everybody, take care. Only the best.